February 11th, the sixth Sunday in Ordinary Time. A reading from the book of Leviticus, chapter 13, verses from 1 to 2 and 44 to 46. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "When a person has on the skin of his body a swelling or an eruption or a spot, and it turns into a case of leprosy disease on the skin of his body, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priests. He is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. His disease is on his head. The leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head hang loose, and he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, 'Unclean, unclean.' He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean, he shall live alone, his dwelling shall be outside the camp." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Responsorial Psalm, Psalms 32, 1-2, 5, 11. You are a hiding place for me. You surround me with cries of deliverance. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is remitted. Blessed the man to whom the Lord imputes no guilt, in whose spirit is no guile. You are a hiding place for me. You surround me with cries of deliverance. To you I have acknowledged my sin. My guilt I did not hide. I said, I will confess my transgression to the Lord. And you have forgiven the guilt of rejoice in the Lord. Exult, you just, my sin. You are a hiding place for me. You surround me with cries of deliverance. Ring out your joy, all you upright of heart. You are a hiding place for me. You surround me with cries of deliverance. A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verses 31 to chapter 11, verse 1. So, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. Be imitators of me, as I am of Christ. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 1, verses from 40 to 45. And a leper came to him, imploring him, and kneeling said to him, "If you will, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him, and said to him, "I will, be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. And Jesus sternly charged him, and sent him away at once, and said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded, for a proof to them." But he went out and began to talk freely about it, and to spread the news, so that Jesus could no longer openly enter a town, but was out in desolate places, and people were coming to him from every quarter. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Every year, on February 11th, on the memorial of Our Lady of Lourdes, we celebrate the World Day of the Sick. The message of Pope Francis for the 32nd World Day of the Sick is titled, "It is not good that man should be alone, healing the sick by healing relationships." Let us reflect on today's readings in the light of Pope Francis' message. The first and third readings talk about leprosy. A leper, leprosy-afflicted person, was considered half dead. He suffered threefold suffering. 1. Physical suffering. The disease will make his skin pale and white. The skin will lose its sensitivity. Fingers will deform. Sores will not heal, but will gather pus. 2. Emotional suffering. The leprosy-afflicted person will be quarantined or isolated from his family, friends, and relatives. He will suffer from loneliness and despair. 3. Spiritual suffering. Since God alone can heal leprosy, leprosy was considered a curse from God. Any sick person undergoes these three types of suffering or alienation. In the first reading, God instructs Moses and Aaron on diagnosing leprosy and the subsequent procedures to be followed. He also tells them how restoration must be done. In the second reading, in the context of the dispute concerning the food offered to idols, Paul tells the Corinthian community not to cause scandal through one's actions. The Gospel reading brings before us a healing miracle. Jesus cleanses a leper who comes to him. The miracle happens in 3 stages. 1. Jesus has compassion on the leper. 2. He touches him. And 3. He sends him to the priest to restore him to society. In the first creation narrative, God sees everything as good. But in the second narrative, man's loneliness is seen as not good. God creates the woman to be a partner to the man. The Good Samaritan in the parable identifies the lonely person, wounded and lying on the road, and restores him to society. The person is healed because of the Good Samaritan's nearness. What is the message for us? 1. To have compassion for the sick and the suffering. Jesus' action of touching is preceded by his compassion. It is because of compassion that the Good Samaritan breaks his journey. 2. To show our togetherness. Touching is an act of showing others our togetherness. When we were born, there was someone to receive us. May we receive others so that they may have life. 3. To restore the sick to society. The sick must be restored to society. To do that, we must restore them to our hearts. We must make them our pastoral priority. The leper was made clean because Jesus touched him.